Update 3 on Tropical Storm Humberto, currently with winds of 70 miles per hour, pressure of 993 millibars, current positions 15.0 degrees north, 28.1 degrees west, which puts it just west of the Cape Verde Islands right now, as a high-end tropical storm on the verge of reaching hurricane status at this time. And that's likely to happen in the next 12 to 24 hours, maybe even less than that, and then moving towards the northwest as a Category 1 hurricane, possibly a low chance of it reaching a Category 2 status, but you never know, that may happen. And then eventually it will weaken as it moves towards the north over colder sea surface temperatures and less conducive environments in general. More on that very shortly. The sea surface temperatures, first of all, though, you can see here, currently in a zone of around 28 degrees Celsius, but as it moves towards the north, and the further it does go towards the north, the more the sea surface temperatures will decline and the more prone to weakening the storm will be. But it should definitely reach hurricane status in that time, as the intensity models show here. The red line of the SHP, probably the highest of the main ones there, just on the cusp of reaching Category 2 status, that one shows at this time. It was a lot higher, it's gone down in time, most of the models have, but still, Category 1 hurricane fairly nailed on at this point. As you can see here, the storm's moving towards the northwest now. It's expected to curve towards the north and then eventually curve back towards the west eventually, in the eastern Atlantic, out in the open ocean. This is the shear comparisons at the moment. You can see it's fairly low at the moment, but will rise gradually, or indeed fairly quickly as time goes on. Sea surface temperatures, as I said, will drop to around 25 degrees at day 3, day 4, which is not quite enough to sustain tropical cyclone development, but almost. 26 is generally the threshold, and relative humidity is generally going to drop as well. There is some dry air not too far from the storm that could infiltrate it in the next 3 or 4 days' time, in particular towards the end of that forecast period. This is the latest satellite imagery. You can see how a few clouds are still over the Cape Verde Islands, but the real core of the storm is well clear now and is moving towards the west, curving towards the northwest at this time, and is expected to curve further towards the north over the next few hours. But you can see how it's been moving towards the west-northwest over the past few hours, away from the Cape Verde Islands. Not too much effects being experienced there now, if any. You can see some dry air off to the northwest as well of the storm, and that could interfere with the storm as it moves towards the north. The storm moving towards that area of dry air, which could interfere and impede any further development that occurs. We'll probably see a peak, definitely as a minimal Category 1, possibly a moderate, maybe towards a high-end Cat 1 if the storm pulls on an impressive burst of intensification. But for the time being, still just shy of hurricane status. Looking at the world tropics, we currently have a few systems active. Invest 94C in the Central Pacific, 93L the Invest in the Atlantic near the Yucatan Peninsula north of Honduras, Tropical Storm Gabrielle, Tropical Storm Humberto of course, and 2 Invests in the Western Pacific, 95W and 96W. This is the Atlantic Ocean in more detail. It's fairly easily, you can see both the tropical storms at the moment. Gabrielle currently 50 miles per hour near Bermuda, and Humberto of course 70 miles per hour near the Cape Verde Islands right now, moving out into the Eastern Atlantic. And 93L as well, with a 20% chance of development. We could see something occurring from that one too in the next few days. We'll see about that one. But 2013 compared then, so far it's the 100th busiest season on record, but it's also around the 63rd least busiest season on record since 1851 or whenever the dates go back to. 8 tropical storms, no hurricanes as of yet, still sticking out like a sore thumb, but that may not be continuing for long. We should definitely see a hurricane from Humberto unless something dramatically wrong goes on in terms of the storm anyway, that we don't see it become a hurricane, but it looks fairly likely at this point. You can track this storm and indeed any other storms out there at the website force13.com/stormtracking.html. That's the main page for the storm tracking information. They are presented with the overview map which shows where the storms are and their intensities, and indeed any warnings that are currently in effect, including invests and post-tropical storms. So you might want to check that out in between updates on either Humberto or Gabrielle. The next video on Humberto will probably be coming later on tomorrow evening, around this time probably, on Wednesday, September the 11th. But until then, that's all for now.